About this time last year, I sent out a newsletter talking about the I Ching of the Tiger Year. As we have just passed the New Year this weekend, I would like to do the same thing. But instead of newsletter, I'm making this as a video this time. Because not only this year's I Ching is important, we are also transitioning from the 8th period of a 180-year cycle, which was a relatively stable period, to a more volatile 9th and final period of this grand cycle. You may ask, wait a minute, isn't the Chinese New Year happened more than 2 weeks ago? Yes, that's the Lunar New Year. In China, we use both lunar and solar calendar. Many people also call them yin and yang calendars. In feng shui, we mainly use the solar calendar. So does farming. And the Taoist inner alchemy also utilize some important dates of the yang calendar for their practices, which you can see from the famous Neidan book 周易参董期 by Wei Boyang. I don't really recommend you to read this because it is very difficult to understand. Anyway, there are 24 important dates on the solar calendar. One of them is February 4th, sometimes happen on February 3rd, which we call Li Chun, meaning the set day of spring. That's why many Chinese also called the New Year as Spring Festival. I have also chosen this special date to start my 3-week Neigong workshop. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, you may say, spring? It's still so cold. Actually, Li Chun means the first sign of spring energy has emerged. And then this spring energy keep increasing day by day. Just like winter solstice is the darkest day of the year, as represented by this point in the Tai Chi diagram. The yin reaches the maximum. At the same time, we enter the yang cycle, though the yang energy is still very weak at this point. But as you can see, the white part keep increasing from here. Similarly, on the Li Chun date, the spring qi is still very weak, that most people cannot feel it. But anyway, how many people can feel or detect all the different types of qi around us? Also, usually by Li Chun, the coldest period of the year is just right behind us. And then in the spring equinox, which is one of those 24 special dates of the Yang calendar, we say spring has officially arrived. This is the time when the spring qi has already transformed into physical things, physical signs of spring that everyone can see, feel, and touch. Just like everything else, we have the qi first, and then it transforms into physical things. So back to this year's I Ching. It is Hexagram 37, which is called family. Generally speaking, it is a good one. It means if you can manage your family well, or maintain healthy relationships with those who are very close to you, then everything will be just fine. So everyone should spend more time with their families, or at least focus more on things inward, close to you, rather than those things that are too far extended. For those who are interested in learning more details about this family hexagram, you can easily find more information from the internet. However, when I use an unconventional way to interpret this hexagram, it gives some other important information. Just like the last year, we still have the fire at the bottom, but this time instead of having the water above it, which can control the fire, we have the wind. The wind here is like a two-edged sword. It could extinguish the fire, but on the other hand, it could spread the fire to become infernal. So this could make things quite unstable. I believe though the wind will have a higher chance to spread the fire, because next year we will be officially stepping into the fire period of the 180-year grand cycle, which will last for 20 years. Let me give you a little more background information about this grand cycle. The Chinese name of this grand cycle is San Yuan Jiu Yun. Roughly means 3 cycles, 9 periods. For every 180 years, all 9 planets of our solar system will be located at one side of the sun. Of course, not quite aligned in a straight line like in the photo. With this 180-year grand cycle, there are 3 yuan, where Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury form a straight line. This happens once every 60 years. And within every yuan cycle, there are 3 periods where Jupiter and Saturn meet. So within a 180-year grand cycle, there are totally 9 periods. This year is the end of the 8th period. The 8th period is represented by Earth element, which is a relatively stable period. Because of its stability, it is also a period of prosperity. Next year, we officially enter the 9th and final period of San Yuan Jiu Yun, which is represented by the fire element, and it is the only period associated with fire among all those 9. So in the coming 2 decades, there will be a lot more fire energy than we have ever experienced in our lifetimes. So what does this all mean? First of all, what does fire represent? Instability, rapid changes, which often leads to revolutions, not just revolutions for regime changes, but even more so for technology revolutions. Because fire also represents electricity and electronics. People will get agitated easier than before. They will have more energy to fight for changes. More explosions, which could result from accidents or wars. More heat waves and wildfire. The trigram for number 9, fire, is Li, which also represents middle-aged women. So I believe more women will be in charge of important roles in government and big corporations. More countries will be able to achieve gender equality. If you look at this trigram, inside is empty. With the coming technology revolutions, we will easily have access to remarkable stimulations to all our outer sensations, the 5 senses. Yet, this will lead to more people neglecting their spiritual needs, become more empty inside, which results in more people having depression and similar disorders. In terms of physical health, as most of you already know, fire is related with heart. So we should be more careful of heart and blood vessels related issues, including stroke, also inflammatory diseases, which are associated with fire as well. Furthermore, when the fire element becomes too strong, it will hurt the metal element, which is related to lungs. So we could expect more respiratory diseases. I know some of you must be thinking, sounds like it has happened already. For the past 2 years, there are significantly more people getting and dying from cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. Yes, that's why in my Legon introduction video last year, I started by saying, since 2020, we have entered a new era. Because the year 2020 is the start of the transitional period from the 8th Yuan to the 9th Yuan. Just like at the start of this video, I said, while spring equinox is the official arrival date of spring, Li Chun on February 4th is the set day of spring. It's more like the start of a transitional period, where the spring qi start to fight with the winter qi and then eventually conquer it. All of this, I believe, will cause a population drop in most countries. While the experts are still projecting the world population won't peak until 2080, my prediction is the peak will happen within this 9th period. It may sound a little gloomy, but not necessarily. First of all, I'm just saying all these things I mentioned have a higher chance of happening because the right energy and conditions are there. It is just like, for example, there will be a long period of drought coming. So there will be a higher chance for wildfire. It doesn't necessarily mean the wildfire will happen. It needs a spark, which could be caused by nature like lightning or by humans. If we know there is a higher chance for wildfire to happen, there are still many things we could do to prevent it and do proper preparations in case it really happens. So human factors also play important roles in all of this. I'll talk more about prevention and what could we do later in this video. Secondly, fire is a positive energy. It burns away the negativities. A couple of years ago, when I was talking about this 9th period with a student, she questioned why most spiritual groups are saying we are entering an era that the whole consciousness of Earth will be raised, while I have this sort of gloomy scenario. Just like what I had talked about in the Neigong introduction video, we need the fire or yin energy to burn away all the negativities within us so that we can progress to a higher level. This burning could be a long and painful process that not everyone can endure. Personally, for years I have suffered a lot from this burning, cleansing process. So in order for Earth and its beings to raise consciously as a whole, it will first need to burn and clean out all those negativities. And this 9th fiery period offers it the chance, so that the phoenix can rise from ashes. To most people though, the process is not that fun. I find many who call themselves spiritual practitioners either don't know or tend to ignore these things. Throughout my teaching career, I've met quite a few who believe they just need to sing some mantra, do some spiritual dance, hug everyone, everything, and meditate a few minutes a day, then they are progressing spiritually. When you talk to them, their language and choice of words are so positive, seemingly full of compassion and appreciation. During the good times, everyone can achieve this easily. Yet, when they face adversities, all those flowery talks are flushed right into the toilets. And sometimes their reactions are even worse than those who are just ordinary people. If you study the stories of all sages in different religions, you will find they all had faced many tests and sometimes life-threatening challenges during their spiritual journeys. In order to grow spiritually, we need these challenges. After learning all of this, what could we do? First of all, for our health, we can definitely do more exercise, quit those habits that are bad for the heart, blood vessels, and lungs. If you have been practicing Tai Chi or Qigong already, consider adding some Qigong particularly good for the heart. Also, some breathing practices into your daily routine. Don't get overdrawn by those external stimulations. Spend more time on personal growth, especially the spiritual side. Like I said earlier, during the good times, everyone can talk about or act according to their spiritual principles easily. However, when facing adversity, many immediately turned into fight or flight mode. But why is that? Because this fight or flight response is hardwired into our bodies. Our ancestors need this to survive. When this response is triggered, most will forget all those spiritual things that they have been learning and talking about every day. With the rapid changing environment in this fiery period, we will be facing much more challenges than before. If we keep letting this fight or flight response trigger by itself, we will become so stressful that could eventually lead to some emotional disorders. Since this response is already hardwired in us, is there anything we can do about it? Yes. One of the major principles in Tai Chi is budao buding, meaning when the force comes to you, you don't run away or fight back directly to the force. So it is the opposite of fight or flight. Though many Tai Chi practitioners know this principle very well, but if they just practice Tai Chi by themselves, they won't be able to apply this principle in real combat situations, which is just like some spiritual people who study and know many principles by heart, but cannot apply them when facing adversities. That's why in Tai Chi, we also need to do a lot of push hand trainings. During these trainings, your partner gives you some force and challenges to see how well you can apply the budao buding principle to neutralize your partner's force and also act decisively once you are able to notice your partner's weakness. Personally, I find after practicing Tai Chi push hand for years, this principle has not only embedded in my body when I face physical forces, but more importantly, it has embedded in my mind too. So not only I could stay calm in almost every situation, I am also able to observe the opportunity behind each of them. The Chinese word crisis is comprised of two characters. The first one, wei, means danger. The second one, ji, means opportunity. So the ancient wisdom already told us that there is a hidden opportunity in every crisis. Let's finish this video by playing a short clip from my latest study course, which show you in action about applying this Tai Chi principle. I wish everyone stay healthy and especially keep cool under this fiery period. One of the most important principles in Tai Chi is Budel Buding, meaning if the force comes to you, you don't run away and don't fight back directly to the force. So your hands should be in constant contact with your partner and remain relaxed all the time during the Tai Chi push hand routine. This is the opposite of fight or flight. I find this really helpful in applying this principle in real life situations. Think about the forces as different problems or issues you face in your daily life. We don't run away or hide from these problems. At the same time, we don't fight back furiously against them. Indeed, we should be like in the Tai Chi push hand routine. Remain relaxed and learn how to dance with the force. Through this relaxed interaction, you will be able to neutralize or solve these problems. So if you are able to apply this in your life, you should be stress-free.